Vladimir Putin suffers cardiac arrest, sparking massive alarm in Kremlin inner circle. And a shout out to Timothy Whitaker in the super chat who asked, I had not seen this story. It's from 16 hours ago. Totally missed this one. But I did just check it real quick, and there are a ton of outlets that are covering this, saying Vladimir Putin is alleged to have suffered a cardiac arrest in his private Moscow apartment on Sunday evening. A Telegram channel believed to be run by a former Kremlin insider reported that incident, saying the Russian leader was found by guards on the floor of the bedroom, lying on the floor, rolling his eyes. Doctors were reportedly called in immediately, and they later diagnosed the 71-year-old having suffered a cardiac arrest. It's different from a heart attack. Cardiac arrest is when your heart stops.
Something like this was reported about Putin a couple months ago, wasn't it?
He's been having a lot of medical issues.
Yeah.
That's horrible to hear.
Well, I mean, the scary thing is, what happens to Russia without Putin?
I know.
Yeah, it's a big power vacuum.
Yeah. Yep. He's not a good dude.
Well, you know what? They might just start fighting among themselves and then lose all interest in Ukraine, and then we could just be like, okay, see you.
Yeah.
See you next time.
This might prevent World War III.
That would be helpful.
It's kind of a horrifying thing to think, like, if this man dies, World War III is averted.
Well, yeah, then Russian Civil War 3 or 4.
Which then,
they do that a lot.
Yeah, the thing is, whoever takes over for Russia, and we would think they might fight amongst themselves, but we don't actually know if there's not a clear successor to his throne. Could be even worse.
It's a proxy war.
They have Prigozhin out of the way. Remember
Yeah.
So he's out of the way, and so a bunch of because he would be much tougher on Ukraine than.
But the next guy might be too. You
know?
know?
I agree.
But didn't they get rid of most of those guys in that?
How do you know though?
Crash? I don't know anything. I don't know anything, which is why we didn't cover this story at Post Millennial. I just couldn't tell.
Yeah, it's hard. And also when you see stuff like this, it's hard for me not to be like, when is the Kremlin statement saying like somebody slipped him poison is coming?
But yeah, I was interested in this story too, and I couldn't track down. I find it very difficult to cover overseas stuff because I really only know just the one language.
Well, especially with China and Russia, I think if anything, I was concerned about this as well. If there's power vacuum, this is before I even knew that he had this heart attack. I talked with a friend of mine. If there is a power vacuum in Russia, what's to say that China isn't going to go, knocking on Russia's door? I don't know. I'm just, it's just a whole other thing I'm throwing out there. But there's definitely animosity between them.
Totally random, crazy thought that you probably start thinking about when you get older. It's like you could be taking a shower in the morning. And like, let's say your wife or your husband or whatever is like, all right, I'm going to go, walk the dog or whatever. And then you slip and hit your head and you're dead.
That's why you should get married, because they'll come back after they walk the dog and be like, the shower is still running, and they'll check on you.
And that's the thing.
Unless they hate you.
But there are a lot of stories about like elderly people who will just go missing. And then a week later, people are just like, let's go check up. They've been missing for a week. And they're like, oh, they slept in the bathroom and died.
Yeah.
Like you could just like Putin. So the report is like his guards heard a thump and then ran up and found him. I don't know if they actually had a heart attack, right? They're saying unconfirmed reports, but a bunch of outlets are carrying this rumor. And just imagine, like, for the average person who has a heart attack, there is no guard waiting downstairs to hear the thump.
That's why they invented the button thing. Although if you have a heart attack and you're unconscious, you can't press your life alert button. Although there's, I think, one that if you fall hard enough, it'll.
Right. There's there's like necklaces and stuff too.
Oh, the iPhone does that.
Yeah.
There was what is it like if you get into a car accident, it instantly calls 911 or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
That means it knows you got into a car
remember
accident.
when
technology's so crazy.
Well, like there's some story where a dude dropped the phone and the phone thought it was a car accident, so it called the police and they found it or something.
Oh, wow.
Like fell off his bike or something like that.
I remember it was just a couple years ago. My mom said, honey, I'm suddenly afraid of falling down.
That must be a
and
crazy
she's
feeling.
like, she's in her mid 70s. She's extremely active. She just got back from a month traveling around
Italy, right?
Italy and Ireland.
She's
and
just living her best
wherever
expat
she
life.
was. Yeah, she just does whatever she wants. But she's still a little bit afraid of falling down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just kind of hope that when I'm old, I'm like fat. And so when I fall down, it
There's some
doesn't,
cushioning.
nothing gets broken.
That is the argument for obesity right now. Although your bones get brittle, you can't walk around, you get the veins, you have a heart issue.
That seems bad
The
too.
diabetes,
No, the good news is if you're fat, you won't get old.
Oh, if you're fat, you won't get old. So that's a win.
Wow, that's how you live.
die
You stay
early.
young forever.
The heart disease takes you
Live
first.
fat, die young.
I'll
you know
just
what I'm
stop
saying?
working out altogether. Like,
Wow.
I'm also equally concerned that Putin having a heart attack could lead to World War III.
Yeah, that's what
really,
I
what's
think.
the alternate scenario? What do you think?
That without Putin stabilizing the region, it results in power struggles, and then it leads to conflict outside of Russia, which drags other people in. Putin may be a stabilizing force, stopping certain elements of the Russian military from engaging in certain actions.
Right. Yeah, like look at Gaddafi after he went to Libya.
Oh,
Libya
yeah.
collapsed. Yeah.
But I mean, worse than that, let's say like Putin has a heart attack and dies. Then a military leader says, I'm the next in command, so I'm going to do this thing. Fighting erupts inside Russia, but then this guy says, send in nuke, Kiev or whatever. Something crazy.
Yeah, Putin's been a tough force for Russia for a long time, and
20 years.
I don't think that this war is just simple land dispute. I think it's definitely a proxy war to test the endurance of Russia, kind of caused by American influence. But yeah, I would rather Putin not die. I think he's protected a lot of the Christian community in Russia, and you've seen Zelensky shut down Orthodox churches in Ukraine. And I'm not saying
they were Russian Orthodox, right? The Russian Orthodox churches.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I do think it would bring in World War III if he died.
Yeah,
I mean, the question at this point is there are so many different scenarios to get us into World War III. Are there any scenarios to keep us out, to keep it from happening?
Put America first. Stay away from everyone else.
But that would still drag us
multiple
in.
arguments have been made for why that would result in World War III.
Yeah, the first two other world wars started when America stayed out. So
that's
I don't know if that'll be anything.
Ben Shapiro's argument is that if Iran or other countries stage a ground invasion of Israel or begin airstrikes, Israel will respond with nuclear weapons, which will create regional conflict, which bleeds out into hemisphere,
becomes
international, and then the U.S. has no choice but to get involved.
Well, Mark Levin was on Fox News the other day, and he was just going, eviscerating the host, saying, well, Israel's surrounded, and they may have to resort to, nuclear weapons, just infuriated. And I don't think it'll come to that point. I don't think it'll come to that point unless Israel provokes it. I just don't see that happening. But what I will say is, even if it does, bleed out into the international community, I still think America should stay out of it. I think we're a strong enough entity to keep to ourselves.
What about NATO? Do you don't think we should?
I think we should pull out of NATO.
You don't think we should defend our allies?
I think we should pull out of NATO.
So we should have no friends at all in the world.
I think our friends should be ourselves, and we should put America first because we haven't done that.
We're going to be like that. We're going to be like that girl in New York who marries herself, stages a whole wedding.
I'm an isolationist,
and she's so happy. Oh my God, happy. She is so happy.
I will say
she has no children. She has no man. I will say she has a very nice dress, and she is happy.
Probably locks her apartment door, which is the thing I think America should do. I think we should completely talk about the border.
Yeah,
and when she falls down in the shower, there is nobody there to help her.
I mean, we have a bunch of states that are the size of European countries. I can't say what our interventionist strategy should be. I generally feel like before we delve in further to any international skirmish, we should have a stronger border policy. And then we can talk about it. It's hard to have these conversations knowing that we are like, yeah, you're bad and we want to support you, and also come across our border anytime, no questions asked. Also, maybe from Canada if you fly there and hop up. No, this is not good.
We need a strong national defense. Trump says it. This is coming straight from Trump's mouth. We have to put America first. That's not a controversial thing to say. We've got so many problems that are crippling us and leaving us basically paralyzed in the water. And our kids are killing themselves because they have no purpose. They're gender dysphoric. And we're focusing on a bunch of regional skirmishes thousands of miles halfway around the world. Let's focus on putting America first. Why is that so controversial?
I agree, but being isolationist and saying we're going to totally isolate ourselves is also kind of a death knell, because we don't have enough manufacturing to keep this country going. We have so many things that are also need to be built up. Our resources are not in the same level as other countries. We have natural gas and we have oil we should be drilling. I got no problem with that. And I'm sure you agree with that as well. But I still think that, okay, if you want to do that, we'll give ourselves a 20-year timeline, because we can't just do that tomorrow or we're screwed.
Yeah, well, I think, like you said, we should be an autonomous country. But
and maybe we should build a time machine and go back and put the factories back in America. Right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we should have done. We've been on a bad path for a long time. I don't think that we should give up and say, well, we've already been engaged. We don't have these things. But I acknowledge, I think you're totally right. Yeah. We aren't necessarily in the position to say, well, we're just going to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well,
I do think
CHIPS Act
that
too.
Before everything else, we need to think about, especially if it's an international war and we know that the Biden administration is leaked. The thing is, Americans are not used to conflict being fought on American soil. So I think it's really important that we secure the border, right?
Strong
it was defense. It's been 7 million people since the Biden administration took office.
Yes.
And in 2020, it was less than 500,000.
Yes, and the majority of them are fighting
It was 480,000. 480,000 in 2020, I'm pretty sure. And it's been 7 million since 2021.
So good. I'm glad that we're entering international skirmishes. This is a great idea.
Yes,
well, they're
great.
trying to displace the nation's image bearers. And I think you've seen that just the way that they demonize white people, white Christians, especially white Christian men, moreover, especially. They're trying to do that. And they're, like you said, they're sending 7 million people in. That's a huge fraction of our population. And I don't think we should stand idly by. We need
And they're not done. They're flying people in from Venezuela. Yeah. They're like, oh, these Venezuelans, they should get all of the things, and New Yorkers should get nothing. We'll just send everybody.
We got to reinforce our border.
Hotel.
We got to have a stronger national defense. Otherwise, we're going to be the laughing stock in the next 10 years.
I agree. But I think
next 10 years?
I know, right?
I think we're already there,
pretty much.
Yeah. It's like right now.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.